Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to some more StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm. Today we're gonna take a look at a Zerg vs Protoss that I played yesterday, and this is going to be a pretty good game on Inferno Pools, one of the new maps that recently got introduced in StarCraft 2. Now in this specific game, my opponent is gonna play, I believe, Stargate into a very greedy third base. And he's gonna follow that up with a bit of a weird transition, one that you normally don't see. He's gonna go up for High Templars, opposed to Colossus. And I'm gonna be able to scout out most of that. We will see that in a second, what this game is going on. And my response is going to be a Zergling Hydra push that I execute basically right before my opponent can really start messing up the army that he needs to kill me. So this is gonna be a pretty decent game that hopefully will teach you a little bit about the Ling Hydra timing that a lot of the players like doing right now, including me. And maybe it will teach you a little bit about scouting Protoss as well. So those are going to be the two goals for this video, is to hopefully help you and and improve a little bit in Zerg vs Protoss. So Zerg vs Protoss in general is a pretty straightforward matchup, okay? How it usually goes is that in the early part of the game, the Zerg player is trying to get as many drones as he possibly can. He tries to figure out what the Protoss is going for, and then you stop droning and start making units. Now, the one thing that you need to try and figure out exactly is, first off, when do you stop making drones? And second, what units do you make? So those are basically the two rules that I'm trying to, or the two answers, or the two questions that I'm trying to find answers to. And that is exactly what we will see in this game as well. So I do open up with a hatchery first right there. A little bit greedy. I did get a bit salty before this game, not gonna lie, because I did get cannon rush like 3 times in a row versus Protoss. It seems like that is going on a lot right now. Maybe that is due to the fact that there's likely going to be a swarm host change very soon, but that's why you see me furiously clicking right there in the natural with a drone on the control right there to figure out exactly if my opponent is putting up pylons and whatnot. But it looks like we are going to be safe for the time being. I do put up my spawning pool right now as well, and I should be going into a overlord right now too at 18 supply. That is pretty decent right now. So my opponent, as you can see on the production tab, went for a pretty standard gateway expand. Now, a quick tip for someone that goes for a gateway expand: they should be going for the expansion right around the 4-minute mark. And you can actually see the slight little nuances that they do. For example, by simply checking out whether or not he gets the Nexus up at 3 minutes and 50 seconds. You can, for example, know that he didn't get the Zealot at all. Or if he actually gets it a little bit later, let's say 4 minutes and 15 seconds, he may have even gotten, like, you know, started like a Stalker before starting up the Nexus, and those little tiny things. Now, I would believe I won't be able to scout it out too early in this game. But you can see on the production tab right now that I am expecting... Well, I'm expecting the Nexus of him to go up right now. There we go, 4 minutes, 5-ish seconds. Pretty standard one right there. He did decide to cancel the Zealot right there in order to get that Nexus out slightly faster. And he does have warp gates on the way. Going straight into the Mothership Core, actually. Pretty greedy play. Meanwhile, I am just getting my 2 queens up. Also gonna get a set of scouting Zerglings right now that I can use to figure out if my opponent is hiding any buildings, or to try and get, you know, the Zerglings inside of the base. And I am looking to expand towards a 3rd base in a little bit. Don't want to quite get that. First off, I'm going to get a bunch more queens, and I should also go up for some gas geysers. Now, I believe in this specific game, I actually delayed the gases quite a bit to, in favor, get like a bunch of extra drones out and some extra queens as well. And then I believe I get like 4 gas geysers at once, which is something that I've been trying out recently, and it seems to be working just fine. Another option that you have is to go for the relatively early Zergling speed, but right now I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, there is a Stargate right there in the main base, so we know exactly what is going on. I don't need to rush out my Zerglings right now. I don't need to rush out any gas geysers. I don't need my upgrades. All I really need to worry about for the time being is getting as many drones as possible, although I should think about getting the gases in just a second. I'm gonna get some spore crawlers here as well, and I think I'm gonna expand towards the 3rd base in just a second too. But for the main part, you know, I've scouted out exactly what my opponent was going for right there. He got a couple of gateway units. I have gotten a couple of queens as well. Do get a couple of spore crawlers to counter the Stargate. But the most important thing that I scouted in this game is the fact that I am allowed to go straight for more drones. And that is the one thing that I really need to be knowing right now. As soon as I'm aware that I can get more drones, I will get more drones. So there we go. You see the 4 gas guys is going down at the same time right there. And just trying to drone up as greedy as I possibly can. Now, I really do need to start taking a 3rd base though. I think I'm going to start that in just a second. At the very least I should be. Because it's a little bit late actually. I should have started that a little while ago. Either way, I'm going to put drones in the gas geyser right now. And I'm just gonna make sure that I have a bunch of Zerglings out on the ground as well to potentially kill any kind of proxy pylons. And I'm gonna also make a few more drones just to, you know, fill those missing spots that I just had my drones put in the gas geysers with. So there we go, 6 more drones on the production tab. Now I'm gonna have to start sort of scouting out exactly what my opponent is up to once more, because I'm not completely aware of it. There we go, finally taking the 3rd base. Bit late right there, but I suppose that is okay. But I'm gonna have to figure out what my opponent is up to. Now I am gonna get the lair, and I'm gonna start Zergling speed very shortly as well. There we go, Zergling speed on production tab. And I need to figure out what my opponent is up to. Now, I believe I saw something in the bottom right corner of the map, and I saw a little glimpse of it, and as you can see, there is something going down right there. Looks like there was just a probe making pylons, and I was looking around everywhere for hidden bases to figure out whether or not my opponent was trying to hide an expansion. Turns out he's just simply gonna take the 3rd right here at the most accessible location for him. But at this point during the game, I saw a slight glimpse in the bottom right corner, and I was convinced that there was some sort of aggression going on. Meanwhile, in my main base, my opponent is trying to do a little bit of damage. The Oracle's actually getting quite a couple kills. One of the Queens actually ended up going down right there as well. Not the biggest of deals, because I already had a replacement Queen ready, but it's not ideal, you know? It's not really what we ideally would want. Now, 3rd base is late, so that means I can't really start my Spore Crawler right there. I should have just taken the 3rd base right after realizing that my opponent was gonna go for this pretty obvious Stargate play, because I saw the Stargate as well. And now I'm honestly also a little bit late at scouting out the 3rd base. So what you want to try and do is always make sure that you figure out what strategy he's going for first, and then figure out if he is taking a 3rd base. Because let's say right now my opponent wouldn't be taking a 3rd base, I would have to start making non-stop units. So, bit of a learning moment right here from myself as well. I need to make sure right now that I'm aware of whether or not he takes a 3rd base. I am simply not doing that right now. It's way too greedy. I think I am gonna eventually run my Zerglings over right there. Yeah, finally gonna, well, I believe send them over to the 3rd base. Yeah, there we go. See some minimap. My Zerglings are moving up there, and I'm like, okay, there is something going on right there, and it's already halfway done. As you can see. So right now I'm gonna start making a lot of Hydralisk. I did start the Hydras up right after the lair finished up, which I got with my first 100 gas. Got my double upgrades coming in right now as well, and I should be going for the Hydra ranged upgrade in just a second too, just to give them that little bit of an edge. There we go, Hydra ranged first. And since I have a lot of creep spread already pushing out across the map, I will be able to get to his side of the map relatively quickly. So I'm just making non-stop Hydras right now. Don't really want to push in too aggressively just yet, but I do want to start moving. I don't want to allow my opponent to simply just sit back, you know, get plenty of energy for all the force fields that he would ever need, and sort of, you know, allow him to macro up. I want to wait for my +1/+1 to finish, but I also want to try and force at least a couple of force fields out of him. So I'm making non-stop units right now. Got full saturation on 3 bases. 5 gas geysers will allow me plenty of gas to make Zerglings with my Hydras as well. And I'm just gonna try and deal some extra aggression right here. Try and see if I can force out some force fields. Now, obviously, I am gonna push back. Don't want to move up that ramp. That's just very, very risky. But I'm just producing non-stop units. Now, at this point, I'm a little bit confused. One thing that I'm always assured about is when you see a Stargate opener, the first Colossus will not pop any earlier than 11.5 minutes, unless he like chrono boosts like mad. But 11.5 minutes is generally when you see the first Colossus. But I'm not seeing it right now, and he has a pretty big gateway force. So I'm a bit confused right here. Normally you won't see this many gateway units at all. And since I'm also not seeing Void Rays, I'm kind of, you know, I'm kind of hesitant here. Normally I would push back. Normally I would not continue fighting here, because I know the Colossus is about to push out at any moment. So I'm like, okay, something is going on right here. It could be Archons, it could be High Templars, it could be all kinds of stuff. But my opponent at the very least went for more gateways than you normally have at this point, and he also did not go for Colossus. So normally I would have stopped pushing a little while ago, but instead right now I am just moving onwards. I have no interest in slowing down right now, knowing that I have the economy that I have, and knowing that I forced a photon overcharge. I'm just gonna go for his natural. So it's a slight little read right there. It is not a very big read, but it's subtle enough to really be important. So there I see one High Templar as well. Gonna send a bunch of these Zerglings inside of the main base, so my opponent can't just simply go for the photon overcharge. And at this point, since I have +1/+1 done, my opponent will simply get wrecked by my Hydras. The Hydras are already very, very powerful, especially against gateway units. But, you know, when your opponent doesn't even have anything to defend it with, such as something that does splash damage, he is going to be in a lot of trouble. So, in this specific game, my opponent got a bit greedy. He thought he would be able to squeeze out a bunch of High Templars and get Templar Archives researching Psionic Storm before I would enter his side of the map. But this is the reason why I would advise you to try and do some timing attacks, and why you need to try and figure out exactly what your opponent is up to during the entirety of the game. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. And other than that, I want to thank you guys all for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, and I'll see you in the next one.